Okay, so yesterday we did the difference of squares, and then we also did perfect square trinomials. So today is going to be our third case, which is the sum and difference of cubes. This should have been the only 2 or 3 problems you couldn't do on your homework that I assigned yesterday. The difference of cubes and the sum of cubes looks like this. So for example, I have x cubed plus 8. This is a sum because it's addition, and it's a sum of cubes because x cubed is x times x times x, and 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. So each of those is a cube because the same thing times itself 3 times equals that value. So when we factor a sum or difference of cubes, we use all of the pieces that multiply together into this. So this is going to factor into 2 things. The first one's going to be a binomial with 2 terms. The second thing is going to be a trinomial with 3 terms. So when we factor these, you need a smaller parentheses and a larger parentheses. See if that helps at all. Okay. So the first thing we do is we take one of each of our factors and we put them in our first parentheses with the original sign from the problem. So my first factor is going to be x plus 2. I took one of the roots from my first term and one of the roots from my second term and used the original sign from the problem. Once I've used these, they are gone. I cannot use them anymore. Then I move to my trinomial factor. I'm going to take the roots that are left and I'm going to put them together for that second factor. So x times x multiplies together to get x squared, which forms the first term in that trinomial. And then 2 times 2 multiplies together to get 4, which is the third term in that trinomial. So all I need now is I'm going to need that middle term right here. I get that by going back to my binomial factor, multiplying them together, and taking the opposite sign. So 2 times x is a positive 2x. The opposite of that is negative 2x. So that becomes the middle term on my trinomial factor. So x cubed plus 8 factors into x plus 2 times x squared minus 2x plus 4. I know that's probably super duper crazy and your head is hurting from trying to follow along with that, but the more we do it, the easier it gets. So that was a sum of cubes. Now we're going to go ahead and do a difference of cubes example. Give you guys a second, make sure everybody has that written. I do hope that you guys are taking notes just like you would in class because this is working the exact same way, okay? Okay, I'm going to scooch this over and we're going to do another example. This one is going to be a difference of cubes. So I have x cubed minus 27. Just like I did before, I need to figure out what multiplies by itself 3 times to get each of these values. So for x cubed, that's pretty easy. X times x times x multiplies together to get x cubed. What about for 27? What multiplies by itself 3 times to get to 27? Any ideas? Hopefully we recognize that it's 3. 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. In case you need to check that, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. My first factor is going to be 2 terms. My second factor is going to be 3 terms. For the first factor, I take one of each of my roots with the original sign from the problem. So my first factor is x minus 3. Once I've used one of my roots, I can go ahead and get rid of it. Then I take what's left and I put it into my second factor. So x times x becomes x squared. 3 times 3 becomes 9. That third term is always positive in that trinomial because any number times itself is always a positive. Then to find this middle term that I'm still missing, I go back to my binomial. I multiply them together. So -3 times x is a -3x. Take its opposite sign, so it becomes positive 3x. So x cubed minus 27 factors into x minus 3 times x squared plus 3x plus 9. And then we're done. So we're going to go ahead and do 4 more examples of this, and then that is it for today. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay, let's keep going. Our next example is going to be 8x cubed minus 1,000. A lot of times, we don't necessarily know what the cube root of a number is. So I'm not going to make you try and guess it. If you know it, that's fantastic. Or if you have a way to figure it out, awesome. You can also use a calculator. So for example, if I wanted to know the cube root of 8, in my calculator, I would put 8 in parentheses. I would hit the upward arrow button, which we call a caret. And then I would do parentheses 1 divided by 3. So I'm taking the 1/3 power of 8, which is the same as a cube root of 8. And if you put that into your calculator, you're going to get that the cube root of 8 is 2. Okay, so that helps me factor this. So I'm looking for what multiplies by itself 3 times to get 8x cubed. Well, I know 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8. And I know x times x times x gives me x cubed. So 2x times 2x times 2x will give me 8x cubed. I do the same thing with the 1,000. You can take that to the 1/3 power if you would like to, but I already know that 10 times 10 times 10 will give me 1,000, because 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 again is 1,000. Remember, when we are factoring this or looking for that cube root, I'm looking for this, what number times itself 3 times gives me that overall number I was looking for. Okay. From here, I'm going to go ahead and factor this. We have a binomial and a trinomial. I take one of each of these roots and I put it in my binomial, keeping the original sign from the problem. So I get 2x minus 10 in that first factor. I go ahead and cross them out because I already used them. Then for my second factor, I take what's left on each of my roots. So 2x times 2x gives me 4x squared. 10 times 10 gives me 100. That third term is always a plus in front of it. Then to find my middle term, I go back to these 2 terms and multiply them together and take the opposite sign. So negative 10 times 2x is a negative 20x. Take its opposite sign and it becomes a positive 20x. So I have 2x minus 10 and then 4x squared plus 20x plus 100. I'm going to write that a little bit better so you can see it. So again, we have 2x minus 10, and then 4x squared plus 20x plus 100. Our next example (64x cubed plus 125). Just like before, you can use your calculator to find the cube root of the numbers. I know for 64, that's going to be 4 times 4 times 4. And then x cubed is x times x times x. So 64x cubed will be 4x times 4x times 4x. 125 then, its cube root is 5. So this is 5 times 5 times 5. Then I just go ahead and I factor this. I take one of each root, and that makes up my first factor with the original sign from the problem, so addition here. Once I've used it, I get rid of it. I take what's left. 4x times 4x gives me 16x squared. 5 times 5 gives me 25. And then I just need to find my middle term. So I do 4x times 5 to get 20x. And I need to do the opposite sign. So it's going to be minus 20x. So I have 4x plus 5 as my first factor. And then 16x squared minus 20x plus 25 as my third factor, or second factor. Are we getting the hang of this? Is anybody super duper confused? Okay, I don't hear anything, so I'm hoping that you guys are all okay. If not, you need to tell me like right away. So we're just gonna go ahead and do one more, and then I think you guys can finish up your homework. So the last example we're going to do is going to be 8x cubed minus 8. Just like before, I'm going to break this down into its cube roots. So what times itself 3 times gives me what we started with. So here there's going to be 2x times 2x times 2x to get 8x cubed. And then to get 8, it's just going to be 2 times 2 times 2. I go ahead and I do my factors. I take one of each, and they make up my first factor with the original sign from the problem. So that's going to be 2x minus 2 in that first parentheses. Then I take what's left, and it makes up my second parentheses. So 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2 times 2 is 4. And then to get my middle term, I do 2x times a negative 2 to get negative 4x. Its opposite is plus 4x. So this factors into 2x minus 2 times 4x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then we are done. So what you're going to do now is you're going to finish up the homework from yesterday. Hopefully you've all started it already. Really, really hoping you have. If you haven't, now's a wonderful time to do that. If you missed yesterday's lesson, it is posted. So the video that we did in class is actually posted on Canvas. And this one will also get posted in case you need to come back and look at it. So you have the rest of this class to go ahead and finish up the homework. I will stay on the Google call. I'll just mute like my microphone and my camera until somebody needs me. And you can ask questions freely until the end of this class period. So if there's nothing else, go ahead and have an absolutely wonderful day and finish up your homework, please, and get that turned in, okay?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah, what's up, Miguel?
What is it for like the last term and like the bigger like free like in the last term for the last number in that, it's gonna always be positive, you said, right?
Yes, always positive.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because like I didn't know that like at first, but then you said something about that, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yep,
I just
it's
wanted to
always
make sure.
positive. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go work on the homework. If I got any problems, I'll let you know.
Awesome. Thank you, Miguel.
Yep.